The Frog Prince. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, lived a beautiful princess. She loved to play with her beautiful golden ball in the palace gardens. One day, when she was playing with the ball, it slipped out of her hands and rolled away and fell into a pond in the palace garden. The poor princess sat beside the pond and cried. She did not know how to get the ball back. As the princess sat there, she heard a voice.
Why are you crying, princess?
She looked up in surprise and found herself staring at an ugly green frog. Oh, I have lost the ball I was playing with. It fell into the pond. I do not know how to get it back. The frog asked her,
What will you give me if I will bring back the ball for you?
The princess, who loved to play with that ball, quickly said, I will give you all the jewels I have. The frog replied,
Jewels I do not need, but if you let me play, eat, drink and sleep with you, then I will get the ball back for you.
The princess agreed, and in her mind she thought, Oh, it's just a frog. I do not have to keep my promise to it. The frog jumped into the pond and brought the golden ball back for the princess. As soon as the princess took the ball, she thanked the frog and ran back to her palace. The frog called out to her, but she did not listen. Next day, when the princess was dining with her father, she heard a knock at the door. Knock, knock. She opened the door. She found the frog standing before her. The princess quickly shut the door, leaving the frog outside the door. Her father, the king, asked her, Who was there at the door? The princess replied, Only an ugly green frog. The king asked, What does the frog want? The princess told the whole story to her father. The king heard her story and then scolded her. A promise is a promise and must be kept, my dear, he said, and ordered her to open the door and let the frog come inside. The princess picked up the frog and placed it on a chair. The frog jumped onto the table from the chair. Then the frog told the princess to move her plate closer so that they could eat together. The princess wept. but had to do as she was told. Then the frog went with the princess to her room. The princess, however, pushed the frog outside her room. After a few minutes, the princess heard a knock at the door. The princess asked in fear, "Who's there?" The frog said,
It is me, the frog. Let me come in. Your father has told you to keep the promise you made to me. So let me come in and sleep in your bed.
Angrily, the princess opened the door. The ugly green frog hopped onto her bed. But the princess tried to stay away from it as much as she could. Next day again, the same thing happened. The princess was worried that the frog would never leave her. "Will you never go away?" she asked the frog. The frog answered,
Well, kiss me once. After that, if you want me to leave you, I will go.
"What?" yelled the princess. "Me kiss a frog? Never!" But her father ordered her to listen to the frog. After all, a promise made must be kept. The princess wept, but she had to kiss the frog. She closed her eyes and gave the frog a kiss. Then she opened her eyes. Oh my, what had happened? Where was the frog? She found a handsome prince standing in front of her instead of an ugly green frog. The prince told her that a witch had put a spell on him, changing him into a frog. And only a princess could set him free from the spell if she fell in love with him. The princess fell in love with the prince, and he fell in love with her. They were married next to the pond in the garden and lived happily for many years. Children, this is the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once, there was a bear's family who lived in a cottage in a jungle. There was a papa bear, a mama bear, and a little baby bear. One morning, Mama Bear prepared some porridge for their breakfast. The porridge was very hot, and the three bears decided to take a walk in the forest while it cooled. They had not gone long when a little girl named Goldilocks came along. She had flowers in her hands. When she saw
the three bears' cottage, she happily clapped her hands. She found it pretty and was curious to know who lived there. She stood on her toes and peeped inside through a window. She found nobody inside. She opened the door and went inside the cottage. She saw 3 bowls of porridge on the table. She cried with joy. "Oh, that porridge smells good! She was feeling hungry. So she picked up a spoon to taste the porridge in the big bowl. She cried, "Ouch! That porridge is too hot to eat." After that, she tasted the porridge in the medium-sized bowl, but that porridge was too cold to eat. At last, she tasted the porridge in the tiny little bowl. This porridge was just right for her to eat, and she ate it all up. Then she found 3 chairs set before the fire and decided to sit there. First, she sat on the big-sized chair. She said, "Oh, that chair is too hard to sit." After that, she sat on the medium-sized chair. She said, "Oh no, that chair is too soft to sit." At last, she sat on the tiny little chair. She said with a smile, "Wow, this chair is just right." At that same moment, the little chair broke. Goldilocks stood up and dusted herself. Then she went towards the bedroom. There she saw 3 beds. "Oh, I am feeling sleepy." She pulled down the covers and climbed into the big-sized bed to sleep. But she immediately jumped down. She said, "That bed is too hard to sleep." She climbed into the medium-sized bed to sleep, but she found it too soft to sleep. At last, she climbed into the tiny little bed. She found it just right. She was soon fast asleep. After some time, the bear's family came back. They were very hungry and decided to eat the porridge. Suddenly, Papa Bear cried out, "Someone has eaten my porridge!" Mama Bear cried out, "Someone has eaten my porridge!" Baby Bear cried out, "Someone has eaten my porridge and it is all finished!" Then they saw their chairs. Papa Bear said,
Someone sat on my chair.
Mama Bear said, "Someone sat on my chair." Then Baby Bear said, "Someone sat on my chair and it is broken." Then they went towards their bedroom. Papa Bear shouted,
Someone slept on my bed.
Mama Bear shouted, "Someone slept on my bed." Then Baby Bear said, "Someone is sleeping in my bed. And here she is." Goldilocks immediately woke up.
Jack and the Beanstalk. There once lived a woman with her son Jack. They had a cow called Milky White. They lived on the milk the cow gave every morning, which they sold in the market. One morning, Milky White gave no milk.
What shall we do now, Mother?
Asked Jack.
Oh yes, oh dear, what shall we do? What shall we do?
Cried his mother. Mother, maybe I'll get work somewhere, said Jack.
Oh, you tried working before, but you did not stay long enough,
said his mother.
We must sell Milky White.
All right, Mother, said Jack. I'll sell Milky White, and then we'll see what we can do after that. He walked on a bit with the cow. Soon he met a funny-looking old man who said to him, "Oh, good morning, Jack." "Good morning to you," said Jack. "How do you know my name?" The man laughed and said, "Oh, well, Jack, are you off to the market?" "Yes, I'm going to the market to sell our cow there," said Jack. Then the man said something strange. "Oh, I wonder if you know how many beans make 5. 2 in each hand and 1 in your mouth," said Jack quickly. "Oh, you are right," said the man. "And here they are, 5 beans just for you, in exchange for your cow, of course." "Are you joking with me? A cow for 5 beans?" said Jack. "Ah, these are magic beans," said the man. "Plant them overnight and by morning they grow right up to the sky." "Really?" said Jack. "Yes, that is so," said the man. "Well, you can have your cow back if this does not happen." "Right," said Jack, and took the beans. He headed off home without Milky White.
How much did you get for her?"
asked Jack's mother, waiting at the door of their house.
"I got magic beans in exchange for our cow, Mother. We will soon be rich."
"What?" cried Jack's mother.
"Have you been such a fool? Oh, what will we do now?"
And she cried and cried and cried some more, and sent Jack to bed without any dinner. She threw the beans out of the window. When Jack woke up the next morning, he looked out the window. Why, the beans his mother had thrown out of the window into the garden had sprung up into a big beanstalk, which went up and up and up. Till it reached the sky. So the man was not a liar after all. The beanstalk grew up quite close past Jack's window. So Jack opened the window, jumped onto the beanstalk. Jack climbed and he climbed and he climbed, till at last he reached the sky. And when he got there, he found a long, winding road going somewhere. So he walked and walked till he came to a great big house. On the doorstep there stood a great big tall woman. "Good morning," said Jack politely. "Could you be so kind as to give me some breakfast, for I am very hungry." "It's breakfast you want, is it?" said the great big tall woman. "It's breakfast you'll be if you don't run away from here. My master is a mean giant, and there's nothing he likes better than boys roasted on toast. So run away now. He'll soon be coming." "Oh, please do give me something to eat. I've had nothing to eat since yesterday morning," said Jack, "or I will die of hunger." Well, the great big tall woman was nice, not mean. So she took Jack into the kitchen. And gave him some bread and cheese and a glass of milk. Jack ate fast, but before he could finish he heard thump, thump, thump. The whole house began to tremble with the noise of someone's footsteps. "Oh my, it's my master!" said the great big tall woman. "Come along quick and jump in here." And she pushed Jack into the oven just as the giant came into the kitchen. He was big and ugly and very hungry. "Oh, what's this I smell? Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll have his bones to grind my bread." "Nonsense, master," said the servant. "Perhaps you smell what you ate for yesterday's dinner. Go, have a wash and tidy up. By the time you come back, your breakfast will be ready for you." So off went the giant to wash up. Jack was just going to jump out of the oven and run away when the woman told him not to. "Wait till he's asleep. He always sleeps after breakfast." Well, the giant ate his breakfast. And after that he took out a couple of bags of gold from a huge box. Sitting down on a chair, he started to count. Oh, so many gold coins. Jack crept out from the oven and quickly grabbed a bag of gold and ran as fast as he could all the way to the beanstalk. He threw down the bag of gold. Which fell straight into his mother's garden, and then he climbed down. At last he was home. He told his mother what had happened and showed her the gold and said, "Well, mother, wasn't I right about the beans? They are really magical, you see." They lived on the bag of gold for some time, but at last they came to the end of it. And Jack decided to try his luck once more up at the top of the beanstalk. So again he climbed the beanstalk. There, sure enough, was the great big tall woman standing on the doorstep. "Good morning," said Jack. "Could you please give me something to eat?" "Go away, boy," said the big tall woman, "or else my master will eat you up for breakfast." "Oh, but aren't you the boy who came here once before? Do you know, that very day my master missed one of his bags of gold?" "Really?" said Jack. "I do not know about any bag of gold, but I'm very hungry. Please give me something to eat." Well, the big tall woman was nice and kind. Once again, she gave him something to eat. Once again, they heard thump, thump, thump. They heard the giant's footstep, and Jack hid in the oven. All happened as it did before. In came the giant, as he did before, and said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum." And had his breakfast of 3 broiled oxen. Then he said to the servant, "Bring me the hen that lays golden eggs." So she brought it, and the giant said, "Lay!" And it laid an egg all of gold. Then the giant fell asleep. Jack quickly stole the hen. And climbed down the beanstalk. He and his mother lived happily for quite some time. Then Jack wanted to bring some more things back from the house at the top of the beanstalk. His mother told him to be careful. This time he crept past the great big tall woman and hid in the oven. He hadn't been there long when he heard thump, thump, thump. As before, in came the giant and his servant. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman," shouted the giant. "I smell him, servant, I smell him." "Do you, master?" said the servant. "Then, if it's that little naughty boy that stole your gold and the hen that laid the golden eggs, I am sure he's hiding in the oven." And they both rushed to the oven. But Jack wasn't there, luckily. He had crept out of the oven and was hiding somewhere else. So the giant sat down to eat his breakfast. After breakfast was over, the giant asked the servant to bring the golden harp. So she brought it and put it on the table before him. Then he said, "Sing!" And the golden harp sang beautifully, and it went on singing. singing till the giant fell asleep. Then Jack crept out of his hiding place. He caught hold of the golden harp and ran with it towards the door. But the harp called out quite loud, "Master! Master!" And the giant was just in time to see Jack running off with his harp. Jack ran fast, but the giant was fast too. Luckily for Jack, the giant had just woken up from his sleep, and so was still drowsy. Jack swung onto the beanstalk and slid down quickly. The giant started to climb down after Jack. Jack yelled out to his mother, "Mother, mother, bring me an axe, bring me an axe!" And his mother came rushing out with the axe in her hand. Jack jumped down and got hold of the axe and chopped the beanstalk. Chop, chop, chop! Down fell the beanstalk with a crash. Then the giant fell down with a big thump. That was the end of the giant. After that, Jack and his mother lived happily ever after. They had all the money they wanted. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White was very beautiful. Her father, the king of the land, loved her very much. In fact, all who saw her fell in love with her beauty and her loving nature. Snow White had a stepmother who did not like her. The stepmother did not like the fact that Snow White was beautiful. She had a magic mirror, and every day the stepmother would ask it,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful lady in the land?"
The mirror always replied, "You are, Your Majesty." But when Snow White turned all of 16 on the day of her birthday, the mirror told the stepmother, "Snow White is the most beautiful lady in the land." The angry stepmother was filled with jealousy. She wanted to get rid of Snow White as soon as possible. She called her trusted servant and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest, far from the castle, and kill her there.
"I will give you a lot of money if you do this,"
she told the servant. The greedy servant quickly took the little girl to the forest. But the girl looked so pretty and sad that he could not kill her and left her alone in the forest, sitting under a tree. Soon it became night, and she began to cry. She heard strange sounds and rustlings that made her feel scared. But since she was tired, she fell asleep under the tree. In the morning, she awoke to the song of the birds and the sunlight peeping through the tall trees. She got up and started walking. On she walked till she came to a clearing. There stood a funny-looking cottage with a tiny door, tiny windows, and a tiny chimney. "Oh, what a tiny cottage this is! Let me go inside. Maybe I will find some food to eat here." Snow White knocked on the door. When no one answered, she went inside. She peeped around the kitchen. What tiny plates and spoons! I wonder who lives here. There must be 7 of them. The table's laid for 7 people. Then she went upstairs, where she saw a bedroom with 7 little beds. I'll cook a meal for whoever lives here. They will be glad to find a meal ready. When dusk fell, 7 tiny men marched homeward singing. They opened the door and were surprised to find a bowl of hot soup on the table and the whole house clean. Snow White lay fast asleep on one of the beds. The chief dwarf gently touched her shoulder. Snow White woke with a start. "Who are you?" he asked. Snow White told them her sad story, and all the dwarfs started to cry with her. "Stay here with us! Oh, stay here with us!" They said together. "You can live here and tend to the house when we are working down at the mine. Don't worry about your stepmother leaving you in the forest. We'll take care of you." Snow White happily said yes. The next morning, the dwarfs set off for work, after warning her not to open the door to strangers, anyone she did not know. Meanwhile, the servant returned to the castle with the heart of a deer. He gave it to the cruel stepmother. "This is Snow White's heart," he said, so that he could claim the reward. The stepmother turned to the magic mirror, but the mirror replied, "The most beautiful in the land is still Snow White, who lives in the 7 dwarfs' cottage in the forest." The stepmother was filled with rage. "She must die! I will make sure she does!" Disguising herself as an old peasant woman, she put a poisoned apple in a basket. Then she quickly went to the forest. Snow White was in the kitchen. She heard the sound of a knock on the door. "Who's there?" she asked, remembering the dwarf's advice. "Just a peasant woman selling apples," came the reply. "I don't need any apples, thank you." "But they are beautiful apples and ever so juicy." "I'm not supposed to open the door to anyone," said Snow White. "Good girl, if you promised not to open up to strangers, then of course you can't buy one of my apples." "You are a good girl. Indeed, as a reward for being good, I'm going to make you a gift of one of my apples." Snow White opened the door just a tiny crack to take the apple. Then the stepmother quickly went away. Snow White bit into the fruit, and as she did, fell to the ground. The poison made her lifeless. Meanwhile, the dwarfs came out of the mine to find Snow White lying still and lifeless, the poisoned apple by her side. They did their best to wake her, but could not do so. Sad, they laid her on a bed of rose petals in a crystal coffin. Then one evening, they found a handsome young man kneeling by the coffin, looking mournfully at Snow White. The dwarfs told him the sad story. And the prince, for he was once, said, "Let me take her to my castle. I will call the best doctors in the land to wake her. She is so beautiful." And he bent to kiss her, which is what he did. He shook the coffin as he did, and the jolt made the apple fall out of Snow White's mouth. She woke up. The nasty spell laid by the wicked stepmother was broken. Yeah! Everyone was happy. The prince asked Snow White to marry him. Said yes. They had a grand wedding. And Snow White invited her father to the wedding. The wicked stepmother was thrown out of the land by the king for having been so mean to his daughter. Snow White never forgot the dwarfs and often visited them in the forest.